Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone. Today we will discuss about the importance of social interaction in the public spaces. In this module, we will discuss what are public spaces, the role of public spaces, the dimension of public spaces, the different aspects of public spaces. Then we will also discuss about human public spaces and the community or the interaction between them. We will also reflect on cases from Kuala Lumpur city and Vilnius in Lithuania and Weimar, Germany. Then we will also discuss about the social disorders that happen in the urban spaces and the impact of digitalization of the social interaction and the public spaces. According to Madinipur, the space that is not controlled by private individual or organizations and hence is open to the general public can be called as a public space. Carr and others define the public space as the publicly accessible places where people go for the group or individual activities. Mehta also defines public spaces as the space that is open to the general public, which generates public use and active or passive social behavior, and where people are subject to the general regulations that govern the use of the space. For example, the streets, the plazas, the squares, the parks and other urban public spaces. Similarly, urban sociologist Oldenburg has defined a third place, which is visited by people on a regular basis, shared with friends, neighbors, co-workers and even strangers, and is a place other than home or workspace. For example, the small local business or the informal community gathering places. All these refer to places that are accessed by people for their personal interest. But at the same time, these places also act as the contested territory between various groups, between private and the public, and between the regulating authorities and the citizenry. Considering the usage of places, as Beck suggests, the places have social, economic and environmental values. Thomas reflected on the four social roles of the public spaces as an arena for public life, or a meeting place for different social groups, a space for display of symbols and images in society, and lastly, a part of communication system between the urban activities. The 5 dimensions of public place according to Mehta are inclusivity or inclusiveness, the pleasurability, the safety, comfort and meaningful activity. Let us discuss them one by one. The inclusiveness is, if we have to define it, is a place is inclusive or not is determined by the degree of access one has to it. According to Mehta, when access to public spaces is concerned, then it has two aspects. The first deals with the distribution of public spaces, proximity and connectivity to other parts of the city, and the second aspect, that is of the ability of the people to be in the public space and use it. Hence, One person's proximity to the place and the ability to use it determines the inclusiveness of the place. The second dimension is the meaningful activity, by which Mehta contextualizes the meaningfulness in the context of the ability for space to support activity and sociability, and through that create some meaning for the participants. He referred to the usefulness as a criteria for the place to be meaningful, like the place that is used for shopping or eating or entertainment or for special needs, to gather or to display or to express or to discuss, debate, demand and protest. The third dimension is which is safety, is the primary concern when public places are concerned. Presence of stores and other non-residential properties, according to Perkins and others, make people consider spaces as safe. Scholars have also highlighted how the presence of people, street light, block watch sign made streets appear safe, whereas the presence of graffiti, litter and poorly maintained building made them feel unsafe. Comfort as the fourth dimension depends on various factors. According to Mehta, comfort only refers to the physical and the environmental effects of the public space. For example, Bosselman and others found temperature, sunlight, shade and wind as important in supporting the outdoor activities in public spaces. Further, the protection from sun, rain, wind play an important role in the utilization of the outdoor spaces. The fifth dimension, being the pleasurability, refers to the presence of memorable architecture or landscape, or where people are able to imagine and create mental images of the city. Given the different dimension of the public space, Mehta developed the Public Space Index to measure the quality of traditional public spaces such as the streets, the plazas, the squares, the small urban parks. Now, having discussed about the public space and its dimension, let us discuss the different aspects of public space. According to Wahid Bigadi Rad and Ibrahim bin Nag, public spaces have different aspects. The first being sociability. According to them, sociability is the most important aspect of public spaces, as they create the opportunity for the people to interact with each other using these spaces, and through that they develop a bond. For example, imagine all the time you and your friends used a park or a mall or a museum to meet and spend time with each other. The second aspect of public space, according to them, is the use and the activity. The use of the space and the activity it promotes draws individuals from different parts to utilize the space during different times and seasons. The more the use of the public spaces have for the individual, the more they attract the people for its use. For example, imagine how certain spaces in your city are used during the festivals in a specific season for celebrating it, and through that drawing people from various places to visit it and use it. Also, think about the melas, circuses or other activities that use certain designated public spaces, and through that have created the use of the public space. The third aspect of the public space is the access and the linkage, according to them. For them, the public space should be well connected and easily accessible to the public for the better usage, like having proper transportation facility, the parking space, the facilities for specially challenged people to access the space, These all play an important role in the usage of space. While the concept of linkage is associated with the circulation and the spatial connection, the axis is linked to the visibility of the space and how one can reach it. Accordingly, Tibals term this as physical and visual axis, which can affect the positive function and the safety of the space. For example, imagine all the time when you were not able to use certain spaces like the parks or gardens for relaxation, as they do not have proper parking space, and how that created problem for you in using that space. The last aspect, according to them, is the comfort and image. The public space that provides comfort and has some aesthetic or visual attractiveness attracts people in using the space. In this case, the durability or the maintenance and the protection of the space and the visual attractiveness impacts the mental comfort of the people within the respective public spaces. Such durability and the physical attractiveness of a space help people in getting a space to relax and derive satisfaction from the use of that space. A space that can attract social participation is considered to provide the population with the following needs. For example, the mental and the physiological comfort that provides individual with durability, then relaxation, the active occupation, passive occupation, discovery and mystery, visual beauty and aesthetic features, social desirability caused by interaction, and the security. Community that are formed within the public space are bonded through the social interaction, people absorption, social security, and the encouragement. This influences to increase the different groups' tolerance within a space, which leads to more interaction, creating active spaces. Further, the community is affected by certain forces and factors, such as the geographical features of the public space or site like the climate, the physical characteristics and the activities in the public spaces, the economic aspects, the social aspects, the social cultural features of the society, and the political aspect. For example, we all feel attracted to spaces where we can relax or whose physical feature attract us to spend time there. Having discussed about the different aspects of public space, let us discuss some cases to understand the importance of the public space for the people. According to Ujang and others, public spaces are regarded as the social spaces and have a vital role in enriching the urban experience. Ujang and others in their study examined the association between place attachment and the social interaction within public spaces in the city center of Kuala Lumpur. According to them, human-place interaction influences the human perception of a place and that forms the place identity. For example, as we discussed earlier, scholars like Mehta studied the quality of the main streets as third places and found that users who frequent these streets value the outdoor sitting spaces provided by the businesses for relaxation and people watching. According to Ujang and others, Asian spaces and urbanism have multi-layered activities and images. Thus, the role of public space in developing social attachment can be difficult to determine the multicultural context of Asian cities and their complex social realities. Since they studied Kuala Lumpur city, which is a multicultural melting pot populated by Malay, Chinese and Indian ethnicities, The Kuala Lumpur Urban Design Guidelines of 2015 aimed to transform the city and make Kuala Lumpur city centre a more livable, efficient and enjoyable city. The study was conducted in the historical shopping and tourism destinations like Jalan Masjid, India, the Dataran Mardirka and the Medan Pasar. The participants of the study included different sections of people using the public space for different purposes, like the shop owners, the workers, the shopkeepers, some personnels, office people, shoppers, local visitors, and students. They found that people from different groups attach different meaning to the space. Like for shoppers, the traditional shopping streets of JMI is regarded as the chosen place to visit and shop. Whereas for vendors, the street artist, it serves as a means of livelihood. They also found that streets were used by various ethnic groups for weekly night markets and festivals which are associated with Malay, Indians, Indian Muslim and Chinese ethnic groups. The purpose of visiting a place determined by the time spent at that space. Lack of street activities was also considered as a factor affecting people's engagement with the space. They found that many migrant nationalities spend time with friends in public spaces in the city, mainly on weekends and public holidays. They also gathered during certain time of the year to celebrate the festivities. They found that many of the spaces were not designed for multi-activities and thus failed to cater to the needs of the social and cultural interaction that could happen among the people. They found that streets were not regarded as a social space for people to interact, but rather as a functional space, as they were used to acquire goods and necessities. They found that the religious institutions such as mosques, temples and churches within the city also functioned as community gathering places. These findings reflect on the fact that the design of a space affects the function it provides to the users. Now let us discuss another case where places are of historical significance. Gintaras, Stokix and Frank Eckhart analyze socio-economic and psychological factors or effects of the architectural arrangements of traditional public spaces of two cities. The one is Vilnius in Lithuania and the Weimar in Germany. The Lukitas Square in the central Vilnius is a place where from time to time the court sentences and even the public execution took place. Later, for the half of the century, it served as an ideological memorial place of occupying the Soviet regime. After independence in 1990, Lithuanian nationals and municipal authorities attempted to erase these negative ideological imprints associated with the place and link it to the modern use by the residents of Vilnius. Similarly, the Theaterplatz in the central Weimar, Germany is associated with two poets. One is Johann Wolfgang van Goethe and the Friedrich Schiller. The city's legacy is linked to the work of the life of these two writers. The Weimar and the city became a place for intellectual pilgrimage. However, it was also associated with the concentration camp on the hill of Weimar in Buchenwald. Statoskin and Eckhart were of the opinion that for sociological mission, a public space is an arena where different social groups carry out a range of very specific social activities that are noticeable for the sharp-eyed viewer. For them, the social liveliness or the death of a public space could be measured by evaluating the presence and the intensity of these social interactions and generation of its result in the form of certain publicly accepted behavior models. The behavior models, according to them, vary from country to country and from place to place. For example, consuming non-vegetarian food is allowed in some places like some restaurants. However, consuming the non-vegetarian food is not allowed in the sacred places. According to them, while redesigning city, the architects should consider these behavioral models without which the public might fail to interact with the city in a constructive way. According to them, to facilitate the social interaction in the public spaces, certain specifics of design should be kept in mind of the planners. For them, a variety and combination of hard like the building and their structure and the soft like the elements of landscape, relief, painting, pavements, measures in combination with universal design elements like the microclimatic, light, color, material, texture, etc. allow for the proper arrangement or rearrangement of various different aspects or spaces to facilitate the most involving social activities. By analyzing the urban squares in Vilnius and Weimar, Stokes and Eckhart found that socio-political systems shape the structural and the aesthetic transformation of places. According to them, good and equal access of citizens of different ages and physical abilities to a public space is vital for improving the social interaction within these public spaces. Now that we are aware of the public spaces and its interaction with the individual and society, let us examine the social disorder and the public space. Samson and Rodenbush analyzed the sources and consequences of public disorder. This was done with the help of videotaping and systemic rating of more than 23,000 street segments in Chicago to determine the scales of social and physical disorder of 196 neighborhoods. Census data, police records, and an independent survey of more than 3,500 residents were used to test a theory of collective efficacy and structural constraints. When we consider the concept of disorder within a particular space, being the neighborhood, for example, it has more specific bearing on the study of crime. According to many scholars, associations have been made between the disorder and both the fear of crime and the crime rates. In this case, a minor disorder is a direct cause of serious crime. Organizations of broken window thesis, which was given by Wilson and Kelling, argued that public incivilities, even if relatively minor, as in case of the broken windows, drinking in the street and graffiti, attract predatory crime because the potential offender assume from them that residents are indifferent to what goes on in the neighborhood. Let us now discuss some concepts to understand the social disorder in the public spaces. The first concept is of collective efficacy. It comprises of the social cohesion among the residents combined with the shared expectations of the social control of public space. Collective efficacy explains lower rate of crime and observed disorder after controlling neighborhood structural characteristics. Collective efficacy is also linked to lower rate of violent crime after accounting for disorder and the reciprocal events of violence. The next concept is of ecological comorbidity. Ecological comorbidity is the association between public disorder and the predatory crime, especially violence. The broken window literature sees these disorders as a fundamental cause of crime. If this given idea is true, then the hypothesized association of structural characteristics and collective efficacy with crime and violence ought to be largely mediated by the social disorder. Now that we are aware of social disorder and public space, let us examine how digitalization is affecting the usage for the public. Susan Ducker and Gary Gumpett documented the use of urban spaces in a media-saturated world. Scholars have highlighted how use of mobile phones have altered the use of public spaces. As scholars like Origi di Shinidio have reflected on how urban space is both augmented and digital. With the cities gaining the characteristics of information city, the digital city, smart city and the global city, which we discussed in the earlier modules, the penetration of technology into the life of the public is irresistible. Similarly, Origi and Di Cindio explain the new technologies allow people to meet new and different others beyond the confines of space and of one's own culture, creating in this way an entirely new world of potential friendships. However, these provide people with an alternative to the physical world and the possibility to not engage in the public space in the way we discussed earlier. Various scholars have even suggested how virtual worlds can provide for a mixed reality space or the hybrid reality where people interact being on street and at the same time in the virtual world. According to Origi and Di Cindio, this type of distributed presence has implications for socializing with other people in the city and in online spaces. Thus, we find that the social interaction in the public spaces is important. However, with the introduction of the new technologies, the benefits that these spaces provide become questionable. Thank you for listening and have a great day ahead.